There is a list of things a World Cup manager expects to deal with in the days before his team's opening match. Fitness concerns, tactical adjustments, press conference questions, the management of a squad that has been together for weeks and is carrying the weight of a nation's expectations into the biggest tournament on earth. Thomas Tuchel has managed at the highest level of club football for more than a decade. He has won the Champions League. He has navigated dressing rooms at Chelsea and Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich. He has dealt with crises, tactical, personal, and institutional, that would have broken less experienced managers. He arrived at the 2026 World Cup having guided England through qualification and having prepared, as professionally as anyone could, for the opening match against Croatia in Dallas on the 17th of June. What he did not expect to be dealing with in the days before that match was a police investigation in Kansas City, Missouri, into the theft of his team's equipment from a van. Harry Kane's boots, Jude Bellingham's boots, Thomas Tuchel's own tactical whiteboards, analysis equipment, key player belongings, taken. Between West Palm Beach in Florida, where England had been based for their pre-tournament preparation, and Swope Soccer Village in Kansas City, Missouri, where the squad arrived to find their working kit significantly depleted. According to reports, England were left with one solitary football. One. At the training base of the national team of the most football-obsessed country in the world, 4 days before their World Cup opener, there was one football and a police report. The Kansas City, Missouri Police Department confirmed they were investigating a possible theft of equipment from a team vehicle that arrived in Kansas City with items missing. That confirmation from a law enforcement agency, not a tabloid, is the detail that makes this more than a colorful story. This is a verified, police-investigated theft of the England national team's World Cup equipment in the country hosting the tournament. So what's really happening here? And what does this episode tell us about the broader environment surrounding this tournament? Start with the facts as they stand. The equipment was being transported between two American states. Somewhere in that transit, from Florida to Missouri, items were removed from a team vehicle. The exact circumstances of how the theft occurred remain part of the police investigation, and it would be wrong to speculate beyond what has been confirmed. What is confirmed is that Kane and Bellingham were among the players whose boots were among the missing items, that Tuchel's analytical tools, the whiteboards through which he communicates his tactical thinking to his players, were gone, and that England's preparation for their first World Cup match was disrupted in a way no one in the Football Association, the coaching staff, or the squad had planned for. The practical consequences were significant, even if ultimately manageable. Professional football players are particular about their boots, not as a luxury preference, but as a functional necessity. A striker of Kane's quality has his boots broken in and customized to a degree that matters at the highest level. Replacing them days before a World Cup match is not trivial. The analysis equipment Tuchel uses is integrated into the preparation process. The whiteboards, the session plans, the tactical information built and refined over weeks. Recovering from their loss in 4 days requires the kind of resilience that no manager should be asked to demonstrate before a ball is kicked. The Football Association responded with appropriate calm. Equipment is being sourced, replacements are being arranged. The match against Croatia will go ahead. England are prepared to manage this. And that management, the professionalism with which a major footballing nation absorbs an extraordinary disruption, is something worth acknowledging. But the professionalism of the response doesn't change what happened. England's World Cup equipment was stolen in America, in the country hosting the tournament, before their first match.
Here's the interesting part, because the England robbery, as extraordinary as it is in isolation, sits within a much larger context of criminal activity surrounding the 2026 World Cup that has been documented with growing alarm by law enforcement and consumer protection agencies in all 3 host countries. The FBI issued a formal public service announcement warning that criminals are creating fraudulent versions of FIFA-affiliated websites to steal personal information, conduct financial fraud, and sell fake products and services. One of the most convincing examples identified by investigators was a domain that removed a single letter from FIFA's legitimate web address, a classic typo squatting technique. The site presented itself as an official portal, complete with tournament branding, navigation menus, and ticket information. Visitors were encouraged to purchase premium packages, including tickets, food, beverages, and lounge access, all fraudulent. Their personal and financial information entered into a fake payment system operated by criminals. In Canada, the Better Business Bureau issued formal warnings to supporters attending World Cup matches. The chief executive of the Bureau's Central Ontario arm was explicit. The World Cup was a prime opportunity for scammers to exploit football fans. The most common scheme was fake tickets, supporters paying real money for tickets that either didn't exist or couldn't be scanned at the venue gate. But the fraud landscape around this tournament extended well beyond fake tickets. Accommodation scams targeted supporters who had already navigated the visa process and were now looking for places to stay. A particular scheme, documented in fraud intelligence reports, involved properties that were not real, either AI-generated images of apartments that didn't exist, or confirmed bookings that were canceled at the last minute just before the supporter arrived, leaving them without accommodation in a host city during match week. This specific tactic, the match day relocation scam, as analysts called it, exploited the combination of high demand and the compressed timelines of tournament travel in a way that left ordinary supporters with no recourse and no room. The scale of the online fraud environment around this tournament was described by one cybersecurity research firm as more sophisticated than anything seen around a previous major sporting event. Criminals had been positioning themselves for more than 2 years since the end of Qatar 2022, buying fake identities that could pass verification checks, then doing nothing with those accounts until the tournament began. By June 2026, those accounts looked legitimate. They had histories, they had profiles, and they were being used to commit fraud at scale across the betting markets, the ticket resale platforms, and the accommodation booking systems that millions of supporters were using to plan their World Cup experience. One analysis described the fraud landscape in terms that captured its particular brutality in the context of this specific tournament. The people most likely to be targeted were those who had already survived the most difficult part of the process, who had obtained a visa, navigated the pricing, made travel arrangements, and arrived in North America ready to experience a World Cup they had been planning for months. The scams were waiting for them at the final step, at the ticket gate, at the apartment that wasn't there, in the confirmation email for a booking that would be canceled 4 hours before check-in.
Now bring that picture together with the England robbery. Because what connects the theft of Kane's boots and Bellingham's training gear from a van in Kansas City with the fake FIFA websites and the match day relocation scams and the fraudulent ticket platforms is something fundamental. The 2026 World Cup, by virtue of its scale, its expanded format, its multi-country hosting, and the enormous commercial value attached to every element of it, has created an environment of criminal opportunity that is operating at a scale no previous edition of the competition has had to manage. The FBI's formal public service announcement was not issued as a precaution. It was issued because the threat was real, active, and already causing harm when it was published. The Better Business Bureau's warnings in Canada were not theoretical. They were based on reports from supporters who had already lost money. The cybersecurity research that documented the 2-year criminal positioning operation was not speculative. It was the result of monitoring accounts and domains and payment systems that were already in use. Think about what it means to be an ordinary supporter trying to follow England to this World Cup. You have navigated the ticket process, the dynamic pricing, the queuing system that one supporter described as the definition of madness, the price increases averaging 35% between October and April. You have arranged your travel to the United States, you have obtained your visa, or you are from a country that doesn't require one, you have found accommodation in Kansas City, where England's group stage matches are being played, and you are doing all of this in an environment where the FBI has formally warned that criminal networks are targeting every element of your journey: the ticket, the accommodation, the payment, the website you trusted to be official. Against that backdrop, a theft from England's own team van feels less like an isolated incident and more like an expression of something that has permeated the entire environment surrounding this tournament. The historical parallel that matters here is not a previous World Cup theft. There isn't a direct comparison in the competition's history. The parallel is with what happens when a major international event creates a concentration of commercial value in a specific geography over a specific period that is large enough to attract criminal activity at scale. The Olympics have faced it, the Super Bowl faces it annually at a smaller scale. The World Cup in 2026, with its 48 teams, 16 cities, 3 countries, and enormous global audience of billions, has created exactly those conditions. The FBI anticipated it, the Better Business Bureau anticipated it, the cybersecurity researchers anticipated it, and the England national team, arriving in Kansas City to find their equipment missing, are the most visible and documented expression of what that environment looks like in practice. England will manage. Tuchel has been in more difficult situations. Kane will get new boots. The whiteboards will be replaced. The preparation that can't be written on a whiteboard, the tactical understanding that a coaching staff builds with a squad over weeks, that can't be stolen from a van. England will line up against Croatia on the 17th of June with the quality and the preparation their 4 weeks together have produced, regardless of what happened in transit between Florida and Missouri. But the story of how they arrived at their Kansas City training base 4 days before their World Cup opener is part of the 2026 record. It sits alongside the Omar Artan story, the empty seats in Guadalajara, the Iran ticket allocation controversy, the hydration breaks, and the Attorney General subpoenas. Not because it is equivalent in scale or significance to any of those things, but because it is authentic. It happened, and it adds one more texture to the picture of a tournament that has, from its first days, been considerably more complicated than anyone planned. What do you think? England arrive at this World Cup as genuine contenders, with Bellingham and Kane and Saka, and a squad that has the quality to go deep into the knockout rounds. Does the disruption of the pre-match preparation matter enough to affect their chances against Croatia? Or is this the kind of story that a team of England's experience absorbs, files away, and uses as a motivation? Either way, someone in Kansas City has Harry Kane's boots, and for a few extraordinary days at the start of the 2026 World Cup, that is one of the most discussed facts in English football.